Welcome to the Decoding HVAC Podcast, powered by Fujitsu Airstage, bringing you smart solutions, industry trends, and pro tips to keep you in the know. Let's get into slim duct units. I think these are very fascinating.
You think about the size of these slim ducted units, and again, for those who are listening, not familiar with a slim duct, but essentially it's a pancake style indoor unit. So it's real. It's very flat. You can have a return in the back or underneath, and you can hook up very little ductwork to it. And the whole point of that is getting that unit closer to the space that I'm trying to get the airflow to. Sometimes it just does not make sense to get a wall mount into, and kind of what I have in my mind as I'm explaining this is kind of multiple bedrooms in a ranch or two-story. I just can't get a wall mount on the wall and get it out there. But I have the attic above the space where I could fit a much lighter, smaller unit above and run a little bit of ductwork off there and still provide individual control for that space that unit's in there.
When you say individual control, Matt, the wall-mounted units, it's a single room, it's a simple layout. But this, you can do multi-zone in these smaller areas, right?
Yeah, in all our multi-zone systems, you can, and the beautiful thing about multi-zone, I call it multi-choice, right? Because you've got multiple indoor unit styles and configurations that you can put into a multi-zone. But for this, sake, we're looking at the wall mount versus, the slim duct. Yeah, and the wall mount is really just trying to spot cool. It's getting there. On a multi-zone application, though, I may want to look at a wing of bedroom. So if I can think the master bedroom is upstairs at one end of the hallway, and at the end is 2 or 3 bedrooms where the kids are. If I know I like it colder at night, I could put a slim ducted model above the master bedroom, a little bit of duct work to make sure I'm covering the perimeter for the heat gain. And then for the bedroom, I can put a separate slim duct system down there, put a little ductwork into each of the bedrooms, and now all 3 of those bedrooms are on one controller and they're going to be at the same temperature. But my wife and I down the hallway, we can actually control ours and make it cooler or warmer depending on what mode we're in.
Excellent. So let's talk about the install of these. Obviously, the wall mounted units we talked for, outside wall, typically condensations, gravity feed. Let's get into how the slim duct system would install.
Yeah, so the slim duct would have very similar to some other products that we have. It'll have a very small, we call it a lift pump, right? So again, anytime we're removing humidity out of the air, I've got to get that condensate out. So these units, the slim duct models, will come with a very small lift pump to get that liquid up out of the unit and then gravity feed, outside the house, whether that's to a common drain or its individual drain. But these things are so light that we can actually hang that from putting it either in a base pan up in the attic where you don't have a whole bunch of space that you're going to take up, or you can suspend it from the rafters and put some isolation dampers on there to make sure that it's not making a whole bunch of noise. Just gives you a ton of options to put this thing closer to the space where the way, if you look at a house where you've got an access to the attic and you climb up the space, you only have a little bit of space where you've got plywood laid down. And that's typically where you would see a central unit, one big unit that's going to run duct for the whole upstairs. Being that a slim duct model is much more compact and lighter, I don't have to have that plywood down there, and I can get it further into the space and put that sucker right above or very close to the room and can be able to control the space.
Let's talk about the aesthetics of this stuff. So the wall mount unit is going to mount outside the wall, right? Everybody has seen those. It's the unit that's up high on the wall. But these slim ducts, where would we put this?
You put it in the attic, or depending if you in a basement or whatever, depending on where your application is. No one's going to know it's there, right? All they're going to see is like a traditional room where you see a supply register sitting on a floor or a ceiling. They don't know where that air is coming from.
So this is fully concealed, is what you're saying?
Fully. Absolutely.
Well, Matt, what about noise levels? I know that the wall mount units are very low noise, but what about the slim ducted system?
Yeah, the slim duct system, you're not moving a ton of air. So you don't have a lot of velocity noise where you're hearing the air coming out of the grills. We purposely do that where we have a little bit of air moving out of that unit for noise. So depending on what the owner is looking for, from aesthetics to consideration of what that space is being used for, both options are super quiet. We do that intentionally.
Now, this isn't limited to residential spaces, right?
We call it ductless technology, but we move a fair amount of ducted systems in our ductless category, and that's because it's become a hybrid system, where before that was the only option we had was a wall mount, and now with multiple styles of indoor units, we can get much more creative. So we move a lot of these slim duct models in a light commercial application. We see a lot of these in multifamily applications all day long, longer runs from the indoor to the outdoor. You can tuck away this small little concealed ducted model. It frees up space for closet space. So we see this in a light commercial application very consistently.
Boutique hotels, office spaces.
Apartments, you name it. Absolutely.
Gotcha. Well, Matt, thanks for doing this with me today. If you have any questions or would like us to cover a topic in a future podcast, please email us at decodinghvacpodcast@gmail.com.